Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast, episode 296, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magicman, and we're recording on April 4th, 2019. I guess I should get around to changing that 8 to a 9, and you're watching it on the 5th or later. We've got, some things that maybe should just go away or consider free-to-play. I don't know. Just some possibilities. We're going to talk about paying your way to competition. Maybe? Kinda? Maybe. And what the fuck is that battle pass? And to join me on that journey, Mr. Jason Winter, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right, but I'm sad to say it's going to have to be my last free-to-play cast because I've just signed a one-year exclusive deal with the Epic Games Store to do their podcast. So, they threw like $5 million at me. So, come on.
Hey, and I can't even blame you. Let's just have fun. We'll invite you back for, I would say, episode 300. I mean, that's episode 4 episodes away is 300.
Tim Sweeney owns my soul now.
Also on the line, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
If I disappear suddenly, it's because there's thunder everywhere.
Is that that's not your lunch back there on the desk, is it?
No, the cats eat back here.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it's actually dog food because I ran out of cat food. We've ordered
just like
it,
had visions of Q typing up a story, just snacking.
Yeah. So you did call the cat Puppy before the stream.
No, I called the cat Bubby.
Bubby.
It's a variation of Bubba, which I also call him for some stupid reason. I don't know.
And then she called me fat shit. I don't
know. No. Fat man.
Fat man, which was also the cat, but our friendship is now over because I don't believe her. Let's get started sliding over with the news. All right, so first up today, we've got something that we're kind of like, should they finally just embrace free-to-play, or is it probably just gonna go away? So initially, the game we're talking about here, not free-to-play right now, Valve's Artifact, and we've mentioned it before on the show a few times, Jason, in the context of other things. The first being, we were surprised that it wasn't free-to-play. Then some of the things they've done with the economy, kind of, okay, well, that's why they couldn't make it free-to-play, because they want the cards to actually have currency value and things like that for trading and selling purposes inside the game, its own economy. That makes sense, but lo and behold, not doing so well. Surprise, 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 Jason.
Yeah, it's down to, let's see, Steam Charts has it at an average of maybe around about 300 players per day, which, for a CCG...
Okay, I know other games have survived much longer on worse Steam Chart results, and I know there's some games that would kill for that type of concurrency player chart. So, but this is a Valve product.
Yeah, it's a Valve product on Steam, only on Steam, of course, and it's just been going down. I mean, the monthly totals from when it started are 11,000, 2,800, 750, 344, and it's still going down like over the past few days. So, what is the bottom right now? The bottom is probably just people who put money into it and can't bear to get out of it, probably.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I always thought was weird because I'm a very CCG guy. I prefer real life, cardboard crack, but I do delve into the online world. Jason, you have a huge CCG and TCG background, and so you kind of, huge, it's massive. You kind of, give your take on a lot of those. Some of those you've played and enjoyed, and other ones you've played once and thrown away. Neither one of us bought this.
Yeah, by the way, rip that Star Trek game I covered last year.
Right.
That just vanished.
That's gone.
But yeah, no, I've never played this one.
There was not enough for, interest for me to want to shell out the money. This was the first game in a long time, Q, that I will say flat out for me, paying for it was the barrier. There was no other barrier to me trying out Artifact besides having to shell out cash for it.
Well, and two, I'm so used to... Like, this is another one I kind of forgot existed, but I'm used to Valve with their games literally shoving it down my throat. Like, suddenly I turn around and there's a Valve game in my list. And I'm like, why do I have this? Oh, they just kind of appear. They're on their own, but it's all their free-to-play stuff. And so it's, like this just kind of, other than, I don't know, y'all mentioning it to me, it just kind of didn't even hit my radar most of the time because who pays to play Valve games anymore?
Right. Jason, the communication from Valve, too, surprisingly, was very dark for a while. Like, it was a blackout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they went about 2 full months without anything. And I remember reading some articles, people were like, what's going on? What's that? Well, the one thing we heard was that they got rid of Richard Garfield, the designer of Magic the Gathering, who was also contributed to this design to some degree. I don't know exactly what.
Who contributes on any card game now, basically. I mean, I see his name just being thrown on things.
Card games. Yeah.
Right?
We could invest in a great team, or we could just pay lots of money to Richard Garfield. What should we do? But yeah, and then they came out with an announcement yesterday or two. I guess it was actually late last week, and they said some pretty pretty dire stuff. It was like,
it was pretty brutally honest for Valve, actually.
Yeah, they said, things didn't turn out how we hoped. Artifact represents the largest discrepancy between our expectations and how one of our games would be received and the actual outcome. We thought this was going to be huge, and boy, were we wrong.
I do like that they kind of, and I don't know if they intentionally did this, but there's a sentence in here that is almost a direct jab cue at when Bless announced, hey, it's not our fault that Bless isn't doing all well. It's the players and their expectations and everything. Because the next sentence of this Valve thing just seemed so pointed, and it probably wasn't intentional, but I couldn't help, living in the free-to-play world, immediately think of when Bless said this, and Jason correctly also quoted this in his article. So you didn't
just get it after reading my article?
No.
It was good.
The sentence was, but we don't think that players misunderstand our game or that they're playing it wrong. Artifact now represents an opportunity for us to improve our craft and use that knowledge to build better games. And I want to come back to that sentence in a minute, but Q, I want to get your reaction to this kind of pretty in-your-face announcement and down-to-earth, factual-based, hey, we screwed it up.
I mean, obviously, it's always a good thing when a game developer can actually, can say, hey, we screwed up, and not do something stupid like blame them, the things that they do wrong on the players. Because, I mean, okay, you do have some stupid players that don't understand how to play games. B's having a problem with a guy he knows that apparently cannot figure out WoW. Like, he just can't figure the game out right. So you do have those players, but most gamers are pretty smart about being able to figure out how a game should function. And if your game just doesn't work for the players, like if you can't turn around and go, oh, well, you guys just didn't get it. So Valve, is being very smart and very open here on that part, and just being like, obviously, we didn't do this right. Sorry.
So what does it mean for the future? Well, from their statements, we have no idea. Because it looks like they're going to answer, and then they don't. I thought that was a little weird. So they said, since launch, we've been looking carefully at how players interact with the game, as well as gathering feedback. All right, Jason, par for the course statement there. It's become clear there are deep-rooted issues with the game, and that our original update strategy of releasing new features and cards would be insufficient to address them. I read that as, hey, we thought this would make money by releasing new features and cards, and that would be enough, and it's not. This last statement, though, is I think the big one. Instead, we believe the correct course of action is to take larger steps, to re-examine the decisions we've made along the way regarding game design, the economy, the social experience of playing, and more. So what does this mean? And I thought, all right, we're going to get an idea of where they're going. Nope. Don't put "so what does this mean" in your statement and then not answer it. But moving forward, we'll be heads down, focusing on addressing these larger issues instead of shipping updates. So don't expect any updates for a while, because we're working on things in the background, is how I read that. While we expect this process of experimentation and development to take a significant amount of time, we're excited to tackle this challenge, and we'll get back to you as soon as we are ready.
They're not excited. They're scared.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't believe that at all, that part. They're just sitting there going, I thought we had this done.
So here's the thing. It is Valve. Obviously, we're talking, barrels of money just sitting around. So they at least don't have that gun to their head, metaphorically speaking, that some other companies do, where if you don't fix this or do something right now, it's going to shut down. They can afford to either decide to shut it down, decide to invest some and make some substantial changes. But they can take their time either way they decide to go. Obviously, no company wants to just sit there and hemorrhage money, but if they think they can make substantial changes to save it, Valve certainly has the ability to give themselves time to make those changes. They're not in dire straits of closing shop tomorrow as a company. But the most obvious change here is probably the hardest change for this game to implement, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a whole lot of players and you're charging money, the best way to get more is to go free to play.
But
for most games, it'd be okay, fine. We put in some stuff in the cash shop and sell level boosts, whatever, subscription, so forth. But the fact that Artifact is based around this economy of buying and selling cards, and that's a central factor in how they do stuff, they have to really go back to the drawing board and figure out how they're going to address that and how it's going to be dealt with. I thought it was something like
if they're
CSGO.
even considering free to play. I mean,
if they're considering it, yeah. So that was something like CSGO, which always had that great marketplace of various stuff and so forth. And then they eventually went free to play. But still, even so, buying and selling guns is not necessarily. And some people might disagree. I sort of feel like that's not the main point of CSGO. The main point of it is, playing in matches and shooting people and whatever. And that's kind of a side thing in the economy, which I don't think Valve necessarily intended to have spring up in the way that it did. This was baked in from the start in Artifact. Yeah. So to circumvent that or to do something, you have to do something different if you're going free to play. Otherwise, everyone just makes free accounts and accumulates cards and sells them all or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that though.
Well, I mean, the only way I can think of, Q, and maybe I'm wrong here, is that it converts to an in-game currency only. There is no ability to put real currency in and out of the system. And while I might say, hey, that makes it relatively easy, not programmatically, but logistically in your brain easy to make the conversion to free to play, is that something that the 300, 400 concurrent players that you don't want to upset because they've been there since the beginning? Is that something that if you do that, the game loses the big appeal that it had for that audience, however small that audience is, where it's almost like, me with Final Fantasy trading card game, where I do have that secondary market and that ability to make a couple of bucks on a good pool or whatever. If you convert it all to in-game currency only, that's totally gone. Does that alienate the audience that's there? I don't know. What are your thoughts on it, Q?
Yeah, I'm not really sure because, I mean, the value of the cards too, right, is based on having someone to sell them to. And if there's only a small amount of players and if the amount of players keeps shrinking, there's nobody to sell those cards to anyway. So you're already not going to be making money doing it that way. I mean, I guess they could do something with it where if they went free to play and they wanted to keep the market and, it's tied, obviously you're downloading it through Steam. So maybe they force you to put in a phone number or something as, kind of like tie it to lock up the account a bit more and be like, okay, well, now, because you can't tie another account to the same phone number, basically, right? Do something like that to make it to kind of lock everything down to where you can't just create tons and tons of accounts to accumulate a bunch of cards. But that would be super aggravating for the players to have to deal with. So I don't really know what the good solution on that is, but I do know if the game keeps shrinking anyway, you're not going to have anybody to sell those cards to, so it won't matter.
Yeah, and to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about here as far as value, and again, this is according to an article by PC Gamer back in December, so a few months old. Market values and metas shift and change the values of cards all the time. We all know, if you've played in, Magic the Gathering or any real CCG that had a secondary market, either virtual or in real life, that 90x% of the cards, Jason, have a value of like 8 cents or below. There's those core meta cards. And so some of them that you can see as far as value in Artifact At least, again, according to the PC Gamer article in December, we're looking at cards anywhere from about $2 all the way up to around the just under $20 mark. Things like Axe at that time was $17.91, and things like Time of Triumph were $8.02. Obviously, these are the higher end, whatever was meta at that time in Artifact. But that's not chump change. That's not, hey, Jason, you pulled a pack, and today that card is worth $17 to somebody that actually wants to buy it off of you, and tomorrow it's worth 200 in-game gold. That's a huge dynamic change for you as a player. If you were investing in this game, I think you're just as ridiculous as people that invest in Magic the Gathering. Not saying money can't be made. I just think it's kind of absurd. But there is definitely a buzzkill there, if that is a piece of the game that you like, Jason.
If you're trying to invest in any CCG, you're about 25 years too late.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like what you said. It's like, if you eventually get down to having 100 people left in your game, who cares if you piss those guys off? If you can get 1,000 to come back or 2,000, whatever, when you go free to play, you do it. Now, maybe they're not quite at that level yet, and obviously, maybe even if you do get that, maybe it's not going to be enough, so they don't want to go to that route. But I mean, I think everything needs to be on the table at this point.
Yeah, and it's a really bizarre catch-22, because it's like, okay, well, we could make it all in-game currency and then make the game free to play. Okay, then how do we monetize it? We sell the cards that people were selling to each other. We now sell them from us. So it's really bizarre. This like little snaky diagram of how this would go.
If they were to figure out a way to, make it free to play and still allow the wholesale thing, and obviously that would be like a huge crazy if, but if they were allowed to do it, then the monetization, wouldn't it just be the same as how you monetize cardboard crack? You sell them the packs for them to open. like that's where the whole loot box thing came from in the first place, is that, because that's how those games literally work.
But the kind of issue there is that with cardboard, with actual cardboard cards, you got to pay $10 for a starter deck, $3 for a booster, whatever. It's not free to play. You can't earn packs for free. If it were, your Black Lotus would be worth $50 or whatever.
But then you do have the people who who get started because somebody gives them a pack or something like that, right? Like that's how some people get in. So I remember when the Harry Potter game came out, like a bunch of my friends were wanting to play, and we had somebody who couldn't afford it, so we just bought them the thing and gave it to them, so they got started for free. But in general, if they wanted to go that way, it would be like, okay, you get your whatever little starter for free, and then you have to buy the packs. And other than getting the starter for free, that's literally how card games work. So,
well, and yeah, in this one you do buy booster packs. I think they're like $2 a piece, something like that. From news stories. Obviously, I haven't played it myself, so you Artifact fans chime in a little more. So, what do you do? Do you just continue to sell the booster packs then, and that's it, or do you look at Hearthstone type monetization where you add things like card backs and additional cosmetic-y type things like
Voice
that?
packs.
In which case, what sets Artifact apart from Hearthstone and Gwent and the myriad of and Elder Scrolls Legends? It's weird because you created something to be different, and it's not succeeding to the point that it might end up falling into the bucket of being the same, Jason.
Sometimes the reason nobody's tried something different is because it's a bad idea.
All right, so let us know what you think. Let's get predictions sure to go wrong here. Q, what happens with Artifact? Does it close? Does it go free to play? Or does it stay buy to play but changes substantially in some way? I'll give you 3 options instead of just 2.
I'm going to be slightly optimistic and say they're going to try some sort of free to play. I mean, all their other stuff has gone free to play, but I have no idea how they're going to achieve it.
Jason, you once said that it can't go free to play, but now that they're acknowledging and they put in there the economy, clearly I think it's got to be on the table. So which of the 3 do you think?
That's why due to my initial things, I'm still leaning more towards shut down entirely. Because even if you go free to play, what does a free to play game usually get when it goes free to play? It's like maybe triples or quadruples its numbers for a while, but that would still only get this to around 1,000. Does Valve think that's worth it? I don't think so. I'm still leaning towards shutdown. I think it might be a little while. I think they're going to try and they're going to hash stuff out in house, but I think eventually it's going to go away.
I think they go the free-to-play route. I agree with you, Jason, on it's Valve. They don't need this to succeed. Does 1,000 concurrent players get them the revenue that they were expecting? Probably not. So, but I also think that because it's Valve, and this is, let's face it, their latest release in a long time, that I think the image of it being almost a catastrophic dumpster fire type failure would be more harmful than let's fix it and get 1,000 concurrent players, and if we make a little scratch, fine. If we don't, fine.
Then we'll shut down.
Then we'll shut it down. Yeah, I think they tried for the free-to-play route first. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Moving on, World of Tanks, and we're not going to talk too much about the game here, but they are making a bunch of matchmaking changes, Jason, and some of these are pretty typical, and then there's one that kind of probably needed a bit more explanation and didn't get it quite yet.
So what they're doing is, revising their matchmaker as they did like 2 years ago, because it's always terrible. You're always on a team with all these noobs, and the other team is like super skilled and has, pay to win or whatever. But they're doing something again where they're going to try to limit how many times you have battles with spanning tanks of 3 tiers. So, because it always sucks, like you're tier 5 and you got like tier 7s that you're up against. You can't touch them at all. So mostly it's going to be like 5, 6, or 7, 8 battles, trying to do that a lot more. But the other big thing that they're doing, and with Matchmaker, this is the interesting part, is they're prioritizing those higher tier spots to people who have premium vehicles, the vehicles you have to pay real money for. So if it's like a 7 and 8, tier 7 and 8 in a battle, if I don't have a premium vehicle, or if I have a premium vehicle, I'm more likely to be one of that tier 8. Or I should say if I have a tier 8 vehicle, I'm more likely to be in a 7-8 match than I am to be in an 8-9 match. They're going to prioritize getting me into the higher tier of those matches. So, I mean, the fact that everyone's going to be 8s and 7s, that's going to be the same thing, like 7 tanks at tier 7 and 8 tanks at tier 8 or whatever. So it's not like it's pay to win. Like I don't have a better chance of winning because my allies are going to be the same. My opponents are going to be the same. But they said that it's supposed to make battles more enjoyable for premium vehicles with preferential matchmaking. So in theory, it's going to be more fun for me because I'm going to be a little OP compared to everyone else, or at least compared to half the guys on the other team.
Yeah, but they kind of sell it the other way. Yeah,
that's directly quoting what they said, to make battles more enjoyable.
No. I know that portion, yes, to make battles more enjoyable for premium vehicles with preferential matchmaking. But your point is, okay, hey, I'm going to be, at the higher end, so am I going to be owning people because I'm playing people that are one tier below me? They sell it the other way, that because of this, you won't be in those matches where you are going up against people to one tier higher than you. So it's the same thing. But
the reverse of that is true. Is if I don't pay money, I'm going to get into those kind of matches.
Exactly. Yeah. It is trying to redistribute things, at least so that you are in the same tier or one tier lower. It's trying to do that for everybody.
Right.
So that does do away with, the huge discrepancy. But then what's the difference? If that's what the matchmaking system is doing anyway, what is the difference for me as somebody with premium vehicles, Jason? This is the part, not being a World of Tanks player, I didn't really understand. If the point was to reduce the number of battles with machines 2 tiers higher, especially for tier 6 and 7 vehicles, or 6 and 8. Okay, where'd 7 go? And redistribute them into battles with tanks of the same tier and 1 tier lower. Okay, if that's what the system's doing generally, what is the perk for the premium vehicles?
The perk is to be more enjoyable. Now, as I mentioned,
in what way?
Suppose it doesn't exist, all right?
Okay.
And I've got, basically, if it's a tier 7, tier 8 battle, I have a 50% chance of beating either one, right?
Right.
If I have a tier 8 vehicle, I have a 50% chance of being in a 7-8, and 50% chance of being in an 8-9, right?
Okay.
But now I have a premium vehicle at tier 8. I've got a better chance of being an 8-7, which means I'm going to have more fun because I get to own the people a lot better. It's not going to affect my win rate. I'm not saying it's going to affect win rate at all,
Right.
because everybody's still going to be 8s and 7s, same on each team, theoretically the same number of premium vehicles. But if you've played a lot of these games, like I said, you know how it can suck when you're lower tier. You're 7, you're trying to kill these guys at tier 8, and your ammo's bouncing off them, or you're not doing much damage. They hit you once and you're dead. It's going to be more enjoyable when you're higher tier because you get to be a little better than everyone else. You see how that is?
Yeah.
And that's sort of what you're paying for in theory by having the premium vehicle.
Right. And it's still they're still saying this the 357s and the 510s are still going to happen.
Yeah, it happens occasionally. You're going to have some uneven distribution of tiers. Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's like kind of like, all right, it's no big deal. But then there is the other side that you mentioned in your article that says, that's like a hair away from I'm getting a better playing experience because I paid.
Because in theory, if you don't pay, then you're more likely to be in the 8-9 battles. So you're going to be in that a little less You're going to be in that more frequently and have a worse experience, right? So
it's like right on the gray area for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, we're talking about 1-tier battles, Q. Here, you're either going to be the 7 in a 7-8, but now this system, if you have a premium tank, is going to push you to be the 8 in a 7-8. Okay, fine. And we're talking about 1 tier, so what's the big deal? While I don't think this exact setup is any real big deal, it does sniff of, hey, wait a minute, you have the ability. And you're willing to acknowledge that you're paying customers, you want to give them a better experience. And from a business perspective, I can't say there's anything wrong with that. But you run a free-to-play game, so what's the next step from here? It's just kind of ew to me. Nah.
Well, I think too, it feels that way because they're literally telling you, hey, we're making this more fun because you paid. And you would think in a free-to-play game, which it does rely on, right, the people who pay, the whales and that stuff, but also relies on people who aren't paying to keep the community alive. That's basically what non-paying players do. They give the people who are paying to play someone to play with. So there's always way more of those people. But when you tell them, well, yeah, you're not paying, so you get to have less fun than the people who are playing, and you have a smaller, than the people who aren't paying, suddenly they have two choices, right? They either pay, which a lot of people who are playing free-to-play games can't do. That's why they're playing free-to-play games. Or you just go find something else to play because they don't care about whether or not it's all that fun for you if they're worried about just making it more fun for the people who are spending money.
Yeah, and Jason, I think that's where my kind of ew lies on this. I'm not bashing wargaming on this at all. The changes make sense. I think everybody's going to have a much better time if everything's kind of kept in a closer tier versus getting all those battles where you're multiple, you're 2 tiers going things against 2 tiers higher and you really don't have a chance in hell unless they just don't know how to play. I can't argue with what they're doing here. It makes sense. It sounds good. I think all players will enjoy it. I think the only kind of gross part to me is that sentence, to make battles more enjoyable for premium vehicles with preferential matchmaking. If that's a goal, what's the next change when this isn't preferential or enjoyable enough for those cats, Jason? It's just,
I haven't done like hardcore analysis, but a lot of people will say that premium vehicles are a little overpowered for their tier. Tier 7 premium is a little better than a tier 7 non-premium. I don't know exactly. Certainly, they're more powerful because they have like all the maxed out gear, which you can get in a regular tier 7. Takes you a while, and even then, maybe the premium vehicle is just a tiny bit better. It's maybe like 5% more damage, maybe 3% slower or something like that. So it sort of balances out a little bit. So yeah, if that was the advantage they always had, now they got this kind of little advantage too. And yeah, you're right. What is going to be the next little advantage they try to sneak in there?
Yeah, and granted, it's not a huge advantage. You're 1 tier up. You're almost, you're not guaranteed, but you're going to be more often than not the higher of the 2 tiers in the battle. Okay, fine. Who cares? The difference is so close, but there is a difference. And so what's the next one? Again, I can't bash them for this. It totally makes sense.
Not raging over it or anything.
No, and I'm not giving Wargaming a hard time on it. I don't think they're doing anything slimy here. But when you do say that is a goal, is to give premium players preferential treatment, from a business side, I can say, yeah, it makes sense. You totally should. From a free-to-play player side, I go, what the fuck? It's an odd situation. So I wanted to talk about it a little today and get your opinion on it. So put your comments down below. In fact, it's going to be our question of the week. We'll talk about matchmaking and premium when we get there. Before we go over to the weekly bombs, let's talk about something else here. This is a little sad, but not surprising. What is surprising, at least to me, is how fast it happened. Breach by QC Games, which I did the first look for, and Jason and I in particular were kind of a little optimistic and hopeful about, with some asymmetrical gameplay and being able to be the bad guy, kind of DM style, setting traps, all that stuff. While I can't tell you the game is closing, because we don't know that for sure yet, what I can tell you is QC Games is closing. Wow, that was fast, Jason. This thing is still in early access.
1 second. You know what else is fast? Is the link to the announcement is now a 404 error on their site. Hold on a sec. Okay, I click on Breach. It's just on the main Breach page now. Okay, all right. I'll have to change that in the article. But yeah, that's what they said. They said specifically today, as in yesterday, today is the last official day for QC Games as we begin winding down internal operations on Breach. Which, like you said, it's not exactly a shutdown, but we're done working on it, and there ain't going to be more, and it's probably going to go away at some point. Whenever we get around to flicking off all the switches and dealing with money issues and whatnot.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden, it's just, almost a gazillion, right? They were there one day, and the next day we were getting a notice that they were closed. The game, hey, we don't know what's going on with the game, but as a company, we don't exist. And obviously, man, anybody impacted here, our condolences, and we hope you get on your feet very quickly, because this type of stuff really sucks. So there are some FAQs so I want to go through a couple of them here, because the one question, the glaring question, is, what does this mean for the future of Breach? And here's their answer. Tell me your thoughts with some cat ass in your face. The game can be played for now, and we will post more information about the future of the service once it becomes available. That's got to be like a looking for a buyer type situation, and trying to avoid closure. Otherwise, you just announce the game's going with you if you've already announced your company's closing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, when you were just discussing them announcing they're shutting down, but not really saying anything about the game, is that they must be shopping it around to see if somebody else wants to pick it up and keep it going. Like that has to be what's going on behind the scenes. Otherwise, you're right. There should be some sort of, well, if that's their last day of operations, they should be telling you exactly what's going to happen with the game and how it's going to affect the players from here on out.
Yeah.
So,
and all they said is, our team is still working on defining what this means for Breach and for our community, and we'll post an updated article soon with answers to as many questions as we can cover. And that's it. So you can still play it. I wouldn't.
No, they actually did post an FAQ. I'm not seeing off the link to that announcement.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading from here. What does this mean for the future of Breach? The game can be played for now, and we will post more information about the future of the service once it becomes available. So even in the FAQ, it's not addressed. You can still play it. You can't buy anything through there anymore, and if you did make purchases, you can get those refunded through Steam by contacting Steam support, or if you did it through the NMAS launcher, you can contact QC Game Support. But from now on, no purchases. I mean, you can still play it, but how bizarre to not be able to say what's going on with the game when, oh, by the way, everybody that works here doesn't work here anymore.
Yeah, I remember we had a similar thing when, what's it called, when the Lawbreakers studio shut down.
Bosky.
Yeah. Bosky, yeah, they did the same thing. They said, well, our company's no longer around, but you can still play the game.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that mean?
What was that? Radical Heights.
Well, Radical Heights and Lawbreakers, both of them, actually. But yeah, and then it was like 2 or 3 months later, they were gone. So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something we saw this coming, didn't we? A little bit.
Yeah, when we did the first look review, you and I were a little, at that point now, apprehensive about where this was going, and I think I even expressed that they probably went into early access a little earlier than they should have, and maybe that was we're running out of time from our funding perspective, and we kind of have to, so...
Yeah, they did that, and then they cut the price. They had a cheaper early access package. Then they made it free on the en masse launcher, and it's like...
Yeah, it went bad fast. It went bad.
I'm surprised
fast.
they didn't just pull the plug, just say, okay, we're going free to play. Try that for a month or so, and if that doesn't work,
who knows? I mean, maybe that's what they'll do. It looks like, if you're, I think if you're en masse, you pick this up in whole if you think it's in a viable product state. If you don't believe that, then I don't imagine anybody else buying this.
They were originally linked to Nexon, if you remember, way back when it was first announced. So I don't know, maybe that's another option too.
Very, very interesting. Q, let's finally talk about a game that used to be very near and dear to your and my heart, and has since fallen on dark times with 900 currencies and now being sold to Gamigo. Rift, we talked about previously, is getting a battle pass, which we thought was just absurd. And now when seeing the details, I tend to agree with our earlier ideas that this is just absurd, Q. What the hell is going on here?
I mean, when I was writing it up, it basically read to me as a slightly more elaborate version of the contracts thing that's in Torchlight. Slightly more elaborate being that there's 3 ways to go about it instead of just the free and the paid. There's free, there's wait, what is it? It's there's a version for the free players, there's a version for people who actually buy the battle pass, and then there's a version for the people who are patrons about the battle pass. And everybody gets different stuff. But it's basically the same thing. You go out, you complete quests, you do your season levels or whatever, and you get things. So it's that same exact kind of thing, which cool, more ways to get stuff, but it just seems weird in that kind of an MMO.
Yeah, it really does. And by the way, what we're talking about content-wise is daily quests. Yay! Daily quests and a couple of weeklies. Fan-fucking-tastic, right?
Which is, like I said, is what Torchlight Frontiers is doing. That's what they're doing as well, is dailies and weeklies.
Right,
so
they're doing it from the start, and that's not an MMO in the sense of Rift being an MMORPG that already has a substantial number of dailies, that already has a substantial number of stupid-ass currencies that you can farm up here, and now for $10, $9.99. Oh, by the way, it's giftable. Jason, feel free. Christmas is coming up. Start wrapping up some Rift.
Maybe that's when Season 1 will end.
Right? You could buy access to more dailies to get rewards through this program. And by the way, this is live on the PTS, so you can already check it out and start giving some feedback. And the feedback generally isn't good.
Go figure.
From the forums, excuse me. I'm not sure why we are paying for in-game content. To me, this is literally opening up the Pandora's box of pay-to-play. Will entering a dungeon cost us $2 next? All in-game content should be free or included as patron, covered only at worst. Sad times. Other people, I think I'm entitled to say this. I don't think it goes against any forum rules. I love to whine where it's due, but right now that whine and reasoning is beyond a logical fallacy. It's like you've never played a free-to-play game before, therefore be quiet. So somebody feeling the exact opposite on that one. I would think it would be really funny if that original poster was a patron. Because then you look kind of silly with that reply here. Just no desire to pay to get extra fluffies playing regular content. I would pay for meaningful new content. For example, a patron-only ability to play a particular questline or chronicle that drops a cool piece of gear like a ring or a trinket that you can't get anywhere at the end. If you want me to part with my dollars, it has to be worth it. And to Jason, your point, there is no date on when the seasons end. I mean, it's just, we will let you know roughly about a month before Season 2 starts. What?
It's like, what? You want me to pay money for a season pass that's going to go on until whenever we feel like telling you later? But please give us your money now.
Enjoy your dailies. To me, and I was a patron on Rift for a long time, I would not buy this as it stands right now. There needs to be something else in there. Don't sell me more dailies in a game that I already had more than enough frickin' dailies to do. I don't care about the shinies that much to give you an extra 10 on top of my patron status, or the only benefit I can see here, free players. I mean, free players make out here, right? You get a free version of something that has some shinies, not the best shinies, but some shinies in it that you weren't going to get anyway. You didn't have to pay anything for it. Okay, the free version of the Battle Pass for somebody that's a free player, great. Here's some more dailies that'll give you some more rewards. That's cool. Buying it at $9.99 or being a patron and paying the patron status and then buying it at $9.99, what the hell? What were
Why would I pay
thinking?
$25 a month or whatever? Just yeah.
I could almost see it if it were okay, the $10 version, the battle pass version, and like almost everything else in every other game that has patron status, where when it comes up and there's this thing that you pay for, well, it's already covered by your patron status.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really
that makes
weird.
Sense, right? So you give the free players an option to buy into it, and then the patrons, they just get it.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and I hope it doesn't do well. I mean, I actually have to hope that it does not do well. Otherwise, other games will adopt this. And as it stands right now, I'm not saying that Gamigo and Rift couldn't change things here and add some more to this or do things in a different way and make me go, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. I don't know if I would buy it, but I could see why somebody would. I can't see, unless you love the rewards, there is no reason for this to be in that type of game. We'll just have to watch it and see how it evolves. It's on the PTS now. It could evolve into something different by the time it comes out, so I'll reserve total judgment, but for right now, I'm giving it the old thumbs down. You two the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. Jason, you're up, sir.
I gotta give an A-bomb to BioWare. Their news this week has not been good, and even worse than all the talk, even worse than the article about how they worked their guys to the bone and had no direction on Anthem, is their response to it when they were like, "We just don't think these articles help the industry at all." It's like, ugh.
Really? Because I read their reply and I thought they did address. They were like, "Hey, it's not like that. We've been under new leadership. We've been making changes. We don't like crunch time." I thought they addressed some of the points. They just didn't want to get involved in the smear of particular people that were specifically called out. There were a few specific people referenced in the Kotaku video or Kotaku article.
Though no names were actually. People were brought up immediately to say, "Hey, this guy worked on this thing or whatever." Not necessarily he was a terrible manager or anything like that. Yeah, the notion that they were like, "Oh, this doesn't help our industry at all." No, sorry. Go away.
Q.
Not related to free-to-play games, but I'm actually going to give it a bomb to the stuff that's been happening. Have you seen the Skyrim gaming grandma stuff?
Yes.
That's been coming out. Them putting her in the game and her little documentary thing and everything. That stuff is so cool. And if you haven't seen the documentary, go find it. It's awesome.
I love when games do that. Like when WoW put Red Shirt Guy in, and the tribute to Robin Williams, and
tributes to Robin Williams.
Yeah, the tributes.
Like 6.
Yeah, I love when games do that type of stuff. I'm going to give an A-bomb to a gentleman who was arrested yesterday. Finally, 25-year-old nursing care worker after emailing Square Enix threatening to kill the staff. And you're not going to believe this. You might say, "Jason, why did you do this?" And Jason said, "Down with the tyranny and predatory practices of gotcha boxes and loot boxes." And you would say, "All right, Jason, you can't threaten to kill people, but I feel you." Nope, not the reason this man did this. The threat caused Square Enix beef up security. The man was finally arrested on March 28th. The emails came like a month ago, and has confessed. "I spent over 200,000 yen, that's just shy of $1,800 on the game, and I didn't get the in-game item I wanted, so I sent the email out of revenge." Not take down your predatory practices. It's that I gave this much money and I still haven't gotten the item. If you give me the item, I won't kill you. Wow. A-bomb, absolutely. It is come on, gang. It's a game. If you're spending $1,800
I still
on
sympathize with the guy having spent that much money and not.
No, how could
no?
you don't sympathize with somebody first off that was silly enough to spend $1,800 and then be mad.
Obviously, he has some issues in a couple different ways.
And then be mad that you didn't get an item from a random box that you knew was random. I don't know if you want to spend $1,800 on a game. I would never do it. I don't have that type of disposable income. But if you do, God bless you, and it's fun. Go for it. I don't care what you do with your money.
It's stupid, and you just give them more money.
Yeah,
don't do it.
I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money.
I
don't think Jason will. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. But then don't be mad when you spent $1,800 on random boxes and didn't get the thing you wanted, knowing they were random boxes.
But don't.
I am going to tell you how to spend your money. Do not spend that much money on a digital game that might shut down. like, don't do that, dummies.
All right, from the viewers, Nisagra says, Rubber Ducky, you're the one. Oh, yeah, I love this song, man. Who makes bedtime lots of fun? Rubber Ducky, I'm awfully fond of you. As much as I love Rubber Duckies, I still have to give the best April Fool's prank to Super Adventure Box in... I meant to put this somewhere else, I think. All right, it answers the question of the week, but that's fine. It's hard to beat adding a whole new game, especially when it's in a genre that doesn't have many modern entries. Hopefully, with the refocus on Guild Wars 2, ArenaNet will get around to adding World 3 next year. Doubt it, but a guy can hope. What are you laughing at?
We've been saying they'll get around to adding World 3 next year for 6 years now. Oh my God! And yes, the bond to them from when they came up with it. That was when they actually did new and interesting things. But anyway,
go ahead, Jason.
Nintendo, odd for me not to rant in bombs this time, but all I can say is boring and how I hate the games I like. Like World of Tanks. Gosh, I hate the gaming community even more, but I like blowing them up. I like playing the competitive portion of it. I bet he would like it even better if he always got to be in the higher tier of the battle.
Enjoy the matchman. Nintendo, let us know. I don't know if you're premium or not, but let us know.
Division 2 is the same boat. I am bored of grinding the same things over and over and not seeing much progress in my gear sets. But I also like the challenge it gives me sometimes. It's frustrating.
I am enjoying Division 2, but also experiencing some of that same angst.
I mean, Nintendo, if a game is bought, if you're just there for the rewards, it's time to find new games, really.
Go ahead, Q.
You really saved this one for me, didn't you?
Oh, no.
Slayer Master PWI, it's a bomb to Mike. I had a really shitty day and a rough night at work, and hearing you say foreskins at 12:23 made me laugh like a 13-year-old boy.
What I thought was great, and thank you, Slayer Master, for noticing that, was that it did not get a reaction out of Jason or Q at all when I said it. And so I was like, all right, well, we'll see if anybody catches that. So, Slayer, you made my day too. Dub-bomb to you. Hexen Writer says, you guys should really check before breaking ArenaNet's image. They give every new episode of Living World for free for players who log in, regardless if they own Pacifier or not, despite them still needing the expansion to access the content. Players who stuck to Guild Wars 2 will already have gotten a lot for free. ArenaNet really needs the money in order to keep themselves afloat and maybe not have to lay off more employees in the future. Hexen, I don't disagree with anything you said there except the first sentence. I don't think we were trying to break ArenaNet's image. In fact, we were quite complimentary on what they were doing in the wake of some layoffs, and this was very cool advertising, and giving this stuff away for free was cool too. And I think the only thing it wasn't even critical though, Jason, was pick a way to sell these skins and stick to it. You've had 3 different models now for the sales of these skins. So,
and you're right in that they get it for free, but they can't access it unless they have the expansion. So, I mean, they kind of need the expansion then. So,
at that point, it's not really free.
Second,
you have to
by
buy
the way,
something
second
to access
episode
something.
now free, right? It's the second episode's now free.
Yeah, same. Yeah, again, but you can only get it if you use it if you. I suppose if you log in, you'll get it, and then if you buy the expansion later, you'll get it later. But still, it's.
Hexen, hey, if we came off as trying to, smear their image or break their image, apologies. That was certainly not our intent at all. In fact, I thought we were being very complimentary of them doing some cool things in the wake of some really shitty news in the layoff category. Go ahead, Jason.
Lurch 2000 says, kind of sounds like they don't have faith that their skins will sell separately. Guild Wars 2 is a nice game, but they have always seemed to be lacking faith in that in-game sales can support their title. They seem to rely more on selling expansions, storyline, versus in-game sells. Maybe they should take all the content of the expansions and sell parts of it and focus on more small transactions versus the full expansion price. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, they would do an expansion every 2 or now going to be maybe 3 years before the next one. So I don't think they're that reliant on it. But I do agree that they probably don't have faith that they'll sell separately because they just tried to sell them separately and maybe that didn't work out. So that's why they're doing something different. So
that continues.
Oh, gosh, sorry, I didn't notice that. And sorry about my last post with the Foundry, Star Trek Online Foundry. My mind tends to wander. It's hard to focus at times. Torchlight might have a year or two. Just remember Perfect World held on to that one title. I think the name was Swordsman before they accepted it was just a failure and they closed it. Oh, God, I remember Swordsman. Good. I'm going to give you bonus editorial points at Lurch 2000 for calling it Swordsman. Not Swordsman Online. That was not part of the title. It was just Swordsman.
The points don't matter. It's like, whose line is it anyway?
Go
ahead, Q.
Still give 50 editorial points. 50 points to Gryffindor.
Well, that does me no good. I'm
Shut up.
Slytherin. Mr. Dispro, to bomb to Borderlands, one facelift. I would love to see more game developers give some love to their older titles and keep them updated with the mechanics that made the sequels a smoother gaming experience. All aboard the hype train. Woo-hoo!
Yeah, then Borderlands 3 kind of causing some waves too. Or maybe just, I should say, articles on Borderlands 3 causing some waves. Bits Turn Bite says, as someone who spent hundreds of dollars on Guild Wars 2, I will never give them another dime. I stopped playing the game after they introduced the slot machine for buying mounts. They don't do that anymore. What, do they?
No, they don't, because that was the one thing, and that's why we've been talking about them doing the other stuff. So
yeah, well, that for the mounts, that's right. Yeah, the mount licenses.
The mount skin. They've been the skins, yeah.
No, I think Bits Turn Bite is talking about the old mount license thing. Remember?
That's what I'm talking about. That mount licenses are skins.
Oh, okay,
yes,
okay.
Same thing.
I have no issue with purchasing a mount for $5 or $10, but a move like this in an already heavily anti-consumer game was the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't like a lot of things ArenaNet sells and that make the consumer feel they need to buy it, like inventory space. But for the most part, I gave Guild Wars 2 a pass. I will not support Guild Wars 2 until they remove the RNG with mounts and publicly apologize. All future projects to come out of ArenaNet will not receive any support from myself. Practices like these need to be stopped, and we as the consumers need to voice our opinions in the only way that has ever been heard in the past. Speak with your wallets, my friends. Bits Turn Bite, whether I agree with you or not on ArenaNet, I wholeheartedly agree with the sentiment of your entire comment, and it's something we say here often. Vote with your wallet.
I mean, to be honest, I feel like they actually did give a public apology for it. So, like,
anyway. For the
Anyway.
whole mount license thing?
Yeah, when the whole mountain license thing happened, and they stopped, like I said, they stopped doing the random stuff later. So, I think that happened, but whatever. Zanushu says, Dauntless player here, and in response to the game releasing on Epic Games Store, all you do in the game is fight monsters which don't have that much unique or creative fights. The combat, while flashy, is still lacking in as much depth as Monster Hunter has in its games. Weapons and armor, while a huge pain to grind for materials, do look creative and interesting. Plus, they can also keep you alive in certain fights if you're wearing the right armor. The hub, even after so long, still feels like it's rather devoid of life from the NPCs. You can always find a player running around the hub, though, which is good. When it comes down to population in-game, nearly all the players fall into two categories. Either they've maxed out everything or they didn't. I fall into the former. When you obtained and maxed out everything, you have very little reason to continue playing since there's nothing else to do. Overall, the biggest issue is that the game is pretty dry and lacking in stuff to do outside of fighting monsters. So even if they release on Epic Store tomorrow, people won't stay. If they want to retain player count with the influx of users, then they'll have to add more to the game. Shocking, games need more content.
And Jason, you and I said that
forever.
about Dauntless way back when we did the first look for it. We said the same thing, that yeah, we're fine with a loot cycle like this. We play ARPGs and Monster Hunter and stuff like this, but generally those games have a far bigger loot cycle than Dauntless does. Finish it up, Q.
Bregner Catalan is apparently the
love
Oprah
this.
of gaming now.
I love this.
You're a Dauntless player, and you are a Dauntless player, and everyone is a Dauntless player.
Everyone's a Dauntless player. We're all part of the 3 million. Question of the week last week. What is the best gaming April Fool's prank or in-game event you've ever seen? Before we read these, Jason, Warframe and Path of Exile had a pretty damn good one this April Fool's.
Path of Warframe. It's coming out in 2 years if they're going to keep their promise about the next conjunction of Jupiter and Mercury or whatever it was. But yeah.
It's something to do with necks, right?
Yeah, Path of Warframe, quest for the regular sized neck or whatever it was.
Yeah. Check it out. We did a write-up on the site. If you missed it, definitely check it out. It's funny. Nintendo says, question of the week. Best one I saw in-game was in War Thunder when they had the mech mode. World of Warships with the bathtub would be a hot second for me. I think the bathtub one has gone over well for World of Warships. They've done that a couple times now, I think.
I don't remember.
Go ahead, Jason.
I thought World of Tanks did a mech thing too, but anyway. Harkona says my favorite April Fool's mode for gaming was My Little Pony for War Thunder. So everybody loves War Thunder and their wackiness. Which again, Gaijin Entertainment, same people who are behind Crossout, so I guess it's their thing.
I actually had to look that one up. I didn't remember it. The My Little Pony War Thunder one. I had to look it up. Here, I'll show you a lovely.
I think I remember that.
Look at that beautiful My Little Pony squadron. Princess Luna is best pony. Friendship is magic.
Oh, God.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Q. Finish it up.
Daniel Oppenlander, for your question, Warcraft 3, where they made April Fools about panda, was a new race. They had to make a hero and later an expansion. Still love it to this day. And who does not love pandas? Hashtag save the pandas.
Yeah, that one kind of backfired. That one kind of backfired on the old Actabliz there.
It backfired, or it was brilliant.
Or it was brilliant. Question of the week: would you pay for a queue in your favorite free-to-play game that has one? Obviously, it's got to have a queue. To only play with other players that paid. And I know that's kind of an extreme example of what World of Tanks is doing. That's nowhere near what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
But if you could, would you play your favorite PvP free-to-play game and queue up only to play against other patrons or optional subscribers? Would you be in favor of a queue like that? Why or why not? Put it in the comments below. Until next week, Q, where can everybody find you?
Hanging out on Twitter at Quitland.
Jason.
On Twitter, Winter Informal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there at magicman1. But more importantly, when you're over there on Twitter, follow at MMOBomb so we can tweet at you all the latest news, articles, giveaways, free-to-play cast, free-to-play weekly, and more. Don't forget your question of the week answers and A-bombs or dub-bombs in the comments below. And until next week, gang, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.